Volkswagen and the Volkswagen scene are what got me into cars. Without Volkswagen, hell, I wouldn't be sitting here today. And I'm not alone. Millions of people love Volkswagen. And without their fans, they wouldn't be one of the largest automakers in the world. But Volkswagen has hit a bit of a rough patch for the past decade. And when I, a Volkswagen die-hard fan, tell you that the company is on the brink of failure and they deserve to fail, you know that things must have gone really bad. So I got 3 questions. Number 1, how did Volkswagen go from one of the most loved automakers in the world to absolute trash? 2, is there any hope for redemption? 3, should we even be rooting for them? All of that and more on this week's episode of Speed. Speed. You never know what you're gonna get. We do everything. Available now on Speed.co. Act 1. Why we love VW. Well, first off, nostalgia. You would be hard-pressed to find another automotive brand with as much nostalgia attached to it as Volkswagen. Everyone has a Volkswagen story, whether they owned one or it's from their childhood. Volkswagen's story is generally broken up into 2 books, let's say. Water-cooled era and the air-cooled era. Air-cooled is like Hitler and the hippies. I'm making this video about what's going on with Volkswagen today, and that starts with the water-cooled era. Water-cooled Volkswagen nostalgia is booming. An entire generation of car enthusiasts identify with VWs or have been influenced by the Volkswagen scene. These are the cars that we cared about when we were kids, and now that we're older, we can finally have the classic Volkswagen that we always wanted. Hoonigan founder Brian Scotto drives a Mark I Rabbit nearly every day. Vin Anatra, who is also from Hoonigan, he has a Mark II with a VR6 from a Corrado. I have 2 Mark III Golfs that you've seen on this channel. Long before YouTube existed, we were all a part of the physical community of Volkswagen enthusiasts. I have a theory on why Volkswagens were so popular in the late 90s and early 2000s, and then all of the sudden they weren't. There was a time, and back in the day, when Volkswagens were the biggest scene on the planet. Stance comes from Volkswagens. Air-Ride first showed up on Volkswagens. Everybody either had a Volkswagen or they wanted one. And then all of a sudden, one day, it was like, boom. Nothing. That whole scene started before internet video. Before YouTube, Volkswagens were huge because they look really good sitting still. They photograph really, really well. And then internet video became a thing. And people realized, they don't really go very fast and they don't really do anything. Just like driving Volkswagens kind of, at least the kind that look cool in photos, sucks. Ask me how I know. You can watch this video on it. I can't take that street because the car's too low. Before video, when the internet was just a bunch of pictures, Volkswagen was king. After video, all of a sudden drifting is the biggest thing on the planet. Why? Because drifting looks cool while moving. That's my theory. Somebody buys a Mo Power Baby hat on the website today, I will send this to one of you. You can get the actual film version of the conspiracy hat. I'll sign it. I'll have Jesse sign it too. Zach is in Paris. This is the Mo Power Baby hat. If you buy one, you can have this. Not everybody's getting, one of you will. Like I said, Volkswagens really shone the brightest when they were sitting still. Unlike drift cars, their understated stylishness lent itself to peaceful, quiet contemplation. But sometimes, quiet contemplation gets interrupted. That's where today's sponsor, Blackview, and their Elite 8 dash cam comes in. It's got Sony Starvis 2 sensors, front and rear, so it'll catch every detail. Faces, license plates, even at night, the alien ship coming into land that you swore that you saw. Well, now you have receipts. You're not crazy. And this isn't your run-of-the-mill Russian dash cam, it's a 24/7 parking guard. With ultra low power parking mode, it can monitor your car for a year without draining the battery. And if something happens while you're not around, you get a real-time cloud alert straight to your phone and instant access to the footage.
Got 'em.
Plus, it's built with high temp protection, so it won't melt into a puddle if you live somewhere hot. Like, say, in the inside of a Mark III parked in Southern California in August. If you've got a car that you care about, and I'm assuming if you're watching this channel, you probably do.
You see underpants.
Especially one that invites a little bit too much attention. I'm looking at you, Andrew. The Elite 8 is a great choice. Does all of this sound good? Yeah, you should get one of these. Go to blackview.com to learn more. Volkswagen was launching a bunch of new cars, and they needed someone to design them. And they did not F around. They asked none other than the founder of Ital Design, the literal designer of the century, Giorgetto Giugiaro, to design 3 of their new models: the Passat, the Scirocco, and the Golf. Very famously, a Porsche 911, you can look at a 1963 911 or a 2025 911 and any 911 in between and be like, oh, I see that. That's the 911. You can do the same thing with a Volkswagen Golf. And there's not a lot of other cars that you can say that about. Volkswagens have always been distinctly Volkswagen. Yeah, there's a big old prominent logo and nothing else looks quite like a Beetle, but every Golf is recognizably a Golf too. The design is simple, functional, but not lazy. It's a people's car, but there's no reason why people can't have nice things. And there's enough aesthetic touches to turn its simplicity into stylishness. Like those 2 lines on the 4-door Golf that change direction in tandem at the belt line. That detail started with the Mark IV and continued through the current Mark VIII. And it's very much the same story inside. Simple stylishness, just like Speed merch available at speed.co. Volkswagen materials are higher quality than their competitors. They've always been like an Audi, but cheaper. And the design is focused on usability. Buttons and stalks are large and engage with satisfying clicks. And even though Volkswagen enthusiasts also love to modify, we never really modify in a way that non-Volkswagen enthusiasts could tell. You don't see many dual inlet carbon fiber hoods or 2-foot tall multi-element rear wings. Part of why we love Volkswagens is because we love how they were styled from the factory. We don't want to mess that up too much. So we'll go ahead and spend thousands of dollars to graft a door handle from an Audi into our door and hook it all up inside so it works. And nobody will know. There's also something special about Volkswagen designs because of what they don't do. Even the fastest, sportiest Volkswagens never have aggressive shapes. This bucks a major trend in automotive design that you see from nearly every other automaker. Volkswagen just refuses to play along. It's a people's car, so the shape needs to be functional, not brash. And performance should speak for itself. A fast car proves it's fast by being fast, not by looking fast. Inside and out, the first water-cooled Volkswagens were straight up refreshing, especially in the US market. They had European style, but unlike BMW or Mercedes, they were priced to compete with American and Japanese compact cars. And unlike a lot of those, the Volkswagens didn't suck to drive. That was something really new. The sportiest air-cooled Volkswagen was the Karmann Ghia, which took, get ready for this, you ready? 28 seconds to go from 0 to 60 miles per hour. The first GTI on American shores did that in 9.7 seconds. That was the 1983 Rabbit GTI. That's right, the first Volkswagen Golfs in America weren't even called Golfs. They were called Rabbits. Volkswagen thought that to the average American, The word golf evoked affluence, while rabbit conveyed a lively animal to love and stroke. That is a quote. For many Volkswagen fans, it was those first GTIs that really caught their attention. They had the new iconic red trimmed front grille, fuel injection, lower, stiffer suspension, and a close ratio transmission. Real sports car stuff in a sensible, stylish little body. And of course, 9.7 seconds 0 to 60 does not sound like a very fast car today. But in car and driver testing back then, it was enough to beat the 5-liter Trans Am. The GTI also beat the Trans Am on price. It cost $1,200 less, just $8,400. That's $28,000 in today's money, which is crazy. And it could carry more people and stuff than a Trans Am. And it was also smaller. The GTI became the poster car for hot hatches. It showed the world that a little tiny car could have it all. The Mark I Golf was launched only intending to be a stylish, sensible hatchback. The first GTI was a specialty model intended for limited production, just 5,000 units. But by the end of the first year, it had sold 30,000. And by the end of the Mark I Golf's run, they'd sold 420,000 GTIs. Clearly, this was the Golf that everybody wanted. And guys, it's Mark, not MK. Mark is a guy that went through a lot of changes, a lot of phases. So all car companies are like, damn, we should differentiate the generations of our cars by saying Mark, because Mark has been through so many different eras. He was like friends with all car companies. The Mark II GTI came to America in 1985, and this time it had even more racy upgrades. And I mean racy like a race car, not racy like sexy. Talking about Recaro seats, BBS wheels, and engines that got more powerful every year. Well, in hindsight, maybe those things are sexy. If you wanted a sporty Volkswagen but you didn't want a hatchback, for some reason, they also had you covered there too. The Jetta GLI was a GTI with a butt. Then the sleek two-door Corrado debuted in 1989 with a supercharged G64 cylinder, and 3 years later, they threw out the G60 and added the now iconic VR6. In 1995, that same VR6 became available in the Mark III GTI and Jetta GLX. And in 2000, with the Mark IV GTI, turbocharging was added to the menu with the 1.8T. Never lose. If you want to win, get yourself a 1.8T. Because the 1.8T never lose, never lose. 1.8T, never lose. In 2003, things got really crazy with the Mark IV Golf R32. That car paired a 3.2 liter VR6 with all-wheel drive. This was a car that did not make sense to most people. It was still a Golf, so definitely not a true sports car and not designed to attract sports car buyers. And a casual Volkswagen consumer wasn't about to spend $30,000 for the R32 when a GTI could be had for under $20K. And the R32 is not a GTI. The big reason for the cost increase was because the R32 had a ton of bespoke parts to distinguish it from ordinary Golfs. Koenig seats, steering wheel, gauges, wheels, bumpers. These were not available in any other Volkswagen at the time and had to be specially made just for this weird, expensive, all-wheel drive V6 hatchback. So who was the R32 for? Us! It was for people who like cool cars that drive cool and sound cool. People who not only liked Volkswagens, but people who loved Volkswagens. They saw us. They made a whole freaking car just for us, the Volkswagen fans who had dreamed about a super Golf. Then they did it again with the Mark V R32, and then the Golf R for the Mark 6, 7, and 8th generations. The R32 and Golf R weren't designed for volume sales, and they often lost in magazine comparisons in tests with other cars. Shoppers making decisions based on those comparisons or on a spec sheet were probably not going to buy one anyway. Even Motor Trend, who loved the Mark V R32, said you'd be better off spending that extra $10,000 modifying a GTI or buying a BMW. I don't know, man. Hindsight's 2020, but I think a Mark IV or Mark V R32 has proven to be a much better investment than a modified Mark IV GTI or almost any BMW from the early 2000s, save for an M3. So I've been saying it almost my entire career, and I'll say it again. Suck it, Motor Trend. The R32 and Golf R really were just for the people who really loved Volkswagen. Cars like those validated our feelings. They showed us that this giant company got us. They understood why people were so committed to them and why thousands of people got Volkswagen tattoos. They did it because when you combine the nostalgia, the community, the style, and the cars, you end up with something that was fun. I'm wearing a Volkswagen shirt accidentally right now. I just realized it. There's a Volkswagen Golf on my shirt. Owning a Volkswagen feels good when it's running. A lot of them were affordable. Even as a high school kid, they looked good and you could personalize them easily. Then you could nerd out with a bunch of friends that you made because you owned one. Driving a Volkswagen meant that you belonged to something. Now, that Volkswagen enthusiasm is a massive part of what made Volkswagen so special. There's not a lot of automotive brands that mean as much to so many people. It wasn't a Q4 projection that turned Volkswagen into the most nostalgia-fueled automotive brand on the planet. It was Volkswagen fans who did that. And for a while anyway, Volkswagen knew this. So they leaned into it. They did things to make us fans feel special, like building cars for the Wörthersee GTI meet. That is a giant meetup that's been going on since 1982, where a bunch of guys with Volkswagens hang out and talk about them. Oh, that sounds pretty cool. I do that with my friends. Well, guess what? At this meet, 200,000 people do it sometimes. And it's the Volkswagen community that built this. It wasn't even officially sponsored by Volkswagen till 2000, but then they officially sponsored it. They recognized that this event was something that was incredibly important to their fans, so Volkswagen engineers would sponsor it, and then they would bring one-off mega modded GTIs to the event every year. Stuff like the mid-engine W12 650 in 2007, which was a really wide GTI with a W12 in the back. And you're probably thinking, wow, that's a really fun little concept car that they made to just put on display there. Guess what, guy? It wasn't just a nice little concept car to sit there and look pretty. It was a real car that really drove. Jeremy Clarkson drove it on Top Gear, and he was like, holy crack-a-moly, this motherfucker nail. That's my Jeremy Clarkson impression. This year on Top Gear, holy dog dongs, I'm driving this big old fat GT-izzle really fast. That mutual appreciation between the company and their most loyal customers helped Volkswagen become what it is today. Occasionally the largest automaker on the planet, and a company with around 700,000 employees. That happened because of Volkswagen enthusiasts who not only bought their cars, but championed the brand at every opportunity that they had for decades. It was so annoying to other people. But I don't know if you've noticed, those fans have gone quiet recently. Because today's Volkswagen is not the same car company that we used to care so much about. And that's because today's Volkswagen doesn't seem to care about us. Volkswagen, you f***ing changed, man. And all that change for the worse started with a teeny tiny, little minuscule, just kind of like a hiccup, really. Just this little thing that you have probably never even heard of. Dieselgate. Just in case you need a refresher, Dieselgate was a massive scandal that cost Volkswagen $33 billion in fines and settlements. In 2015, an independent researcher figured out that Volkswagen had been cheating on emissions tests for nearly 10 years. Volkswagen ECUs were programmed to detect when a test was happening and would run the engine in a secret clean mode that produced fewer emissions. It's kind of like the eco button that's on a lot of cars, except completely illegal because the rest of the time, those Volkswagens were emitting an obscene amount of toxic gases. What's even worse is, in spite of the name, it wasn't just diesel cars that were affected, and VW was forced to pay billions of dollars in fines and to actually buy back about 500,000 vehicles. That's just in the US, which only accounts for about 4% of their global sales. Volkswagen executives were charged with fraud and conspiracy. And even though a lot of automakers have been caught doing similar things, the Volkswagen case was by far the most public.
Volkswagen says 11 million vehicles worldwide were equipped with that software used to cheat on emissions tests in the US.
And in my German words, we have totally screwed up.
That had a lasting impact on their image and sales. But surely 10 years is enough time to recover, right? Well, in the time since Dieselgate, Volkswagen has scored half a dozen more own goals. India says that Volkswagen has been lying about imported vehicles since 2012. They've been claiming that partially assembled cars were just individual parts to pay lower duties. And now India says that Volkswagen owes $1.4 billion in back taxes. Volkswagen was one of the first successful foreign car companies in China. At their peak, Chinese sales accounted for 40% of Volkswagen's profits in almost 3 million vehicles per year. But that's been steadily dropping. So, naturally, Volkswagen put a ton of effort into their Chinese business. Unfortunately for Volkswagen, that business has been steadily dropping since 2019. Chinese customers are increasingly buying EVs, and Volkswagen just really can't compete on the price with domestic companies like BYD or on features with more mature EV producers like Tesla. And it's not like they haven't been trying. In 2020, Volkswagen launched a company called Cariad, dedicated to developing EV software. So far, that has cost Volkswagen $16 billion. And the software that it produced has been widely panned for being some of the worst software on the market. It's so bad that they don't even want to use it in some of their own future models. They're going to get the software for the upcoming ID2 from Rivian. And you don't get that for free. They're paying Rivian $5 billion for it. They spent $16 billion to make this company to make software that they don't want to use. So then they're like, oh crap, we got to go buy software. How much is it? $5 billion. Oh, so this software essentially cost us $21 billion. Then in 2023, as the problems in China and with EV development continued to increase, Volkswagen committed to spending an additional $130 billion to catch up with the rest of the EV industry. Just 2 years later, Volkswagen management is calling that program, quote, a catastrophe. So Volkswagen is still the second largest automaker in the world after Toyota. But unlike Toyota, they are in some deep shiza. The costs from a decade of mistakes are adding up. I can relate. I'll not have any beer anymore because I drink so much of it for so long. Volkswagen has over $250 billion in debt. And their chief financial officer has publicly said that they only have 1, maybe 2 years to turn things around. When you list time like that, that's when you know it's really, really bad. Yeah, when you get the maybe. When it's good news, they say even. We could have it done in 1, even 2 years. But it's like, nah, dude. We have 1, maybe 2 years left. Their CFO has also said that that can only happen if they get on track to double their U.S. market share within the next 5 years. And so far, that's not looking very good. Because over the past 10 years, Volkswagen has completely alienated the Volkswagen enthusiast that made them so successful in the first place. They have forgot their fans. Volkswagen makes up 8% of Germany's entire economy, but if it went bankrupt, it would be a global problem. They have 114 factories worldwide and make cars in 27 different countries. They're the 8th largest private employer in the world. The idea of Volkswagen going out of business is legitimately scary. As a Volkswagen fan, I should be rooting for them. But guys, they are not making it easy. People don't want to buy a car from a company that they don't like. I mean, look at what happened to Tesla. Something that made Volkswagen unique was that it seemed like the company liked you back. They understood why Volkswagen fans are fans. But now that they've fallen on hard times, all the things that made us love Volkswagens, nostalgia, style, fun, have fallen by the wayside. And they've been replaced by these misguided attempts to maximize revenue. Lots of automakers are just now realizing that they have strong enthusiast communities fueled by nostalgia. A lot of people wanted these cars when they were younger, and now they're older and they can afford them. It's new for a lot of companies like Nissan or Honda. All of a sudden, there's a bunch of people who have a big interest in their old cars. This is sort of a surprise for them. But they're doing something smart. They're supporting those communities. Toyota has put parts for classic Supras and Land Cruisers back into production. Nissan has restarted production of the RB26, and nearly every American and German auto manufacturer has been providing heritage parts for their enthusiast communities for years. I can buy almost every part of my E30 or my Mercedes from the manufacturer for a lot of money, but very easily, because they still make them. Because they care that they're still on the road. That's the best marketing you can have for a car, is seeing old ones on the road. Volkswagen doesn't do that, at least for most of the water-cooled models that are now seeing a rapid resurgence in popularity. A car scene can't survive without those spare parts, and it doesn't seem that Volkswagen cares if their scene survives at all. The difference between building the E30 and putting together the Golf was night and day. Parts are just not available for this super mass produced 27-year-old economy car. That's insane, dog. The only reason we were able to get Norman running for the video was because some weird guys out in the desert had been hoarding Volkswagen parts for years. Volkswagen should care about enthusiasts. They should, because classic car owners also buy new cars. If they made any that we actually wanted. The current Volkswagen range doesn't have the same style that made us love the older cars, because they're not even distinctly Volkswagen. Take the Atlas, a mid-size SUV designed specifically for the American market. All right? This is what Volkswagen thinks American buyers want. And for a lot of American buyers, it probably is, because it's indistinguishable from every other mid-size SUV. That could be a Ford Explorer. And that means that the Atlas has to compete with Chevy, Ford, Jeep, Toyota, and SUVs from every other automaker, because the Atlas isn't the distinctly Volkswagen product that Volkswagen buyers want. They're trying to appeal to everybody, and in the process, they're losing their core. Modern Volkswagens are designed for typical car buyers instead of people who want to buy Volkswagens. And the crazy part about that is their CEO said back in 2019 that chasing volume sales has been a huge mistake post-Dieselgate. He said that they need to focus on Volkswagen fans and the core vehicles that fit the brand and made it relevant. Models like the GTI. Speaking of the GTI, unfortunately, they ruined that too. The interior quality declined. Volkswagens used to be like nicer inside than other cars in their segment. They also replaced the buttons with touch interfaces, and everybody hates those. And this year, Volkswagen committed the ultimate enthusiast sin. They got rid of the manual transmission for the GTI and the Golf R. I mean, I get it. Automatics are faster. You don't have it because it's the fastest. You have it because it's fun. So, is there any hope that Volkswagen can turn things around? Well, obviously, they need to clean up their act as a company and start making some better decisions from a legal standpoint. But from a customer standpoint, aiming for the middle with vehicles isn't going to do them any favors. You shouldn't be trying to take on Ford and Toyota because you don't need to. Volkswagen already has a customer base just waiting for them to give us something that we want. The secret to Volkswagen's success has always been not building the same old cars everybody else is building. Instead, making VWs. They succeeded by doing Volkswagen things for Volkswagen people. Good-looking cars that were distinctive, had an identity, and they didn't try to be everything to everyone. They're not about volume. They're about crushing it in a specific niche. Volkswagen owned the hot hatch market for decades. They don't anymore. So go take it back. Make the Golf fun. Make it nostalgic. It's not like they don't know how to do this. In 1998, years before the retro-inspired Mustangs, Challengers, and PT Cruisers appeared, Volkswagen launched the new Beetle, and it was an insane success. It basically saved Volkswagen at the time. Right now, the only nostalgia play they have is the ID Buzz, which is too expensive, only comes with their weird EV software. It's nostalgic for like a car that was made 75 years ago. What? The ID Buzz is nostalgic for a car that came out at the same time as the car they were nostalgic about in 1998. 30 years between these nostalgias. That's an entirely new nostalgia. Let us know in the comments if you want us to build a Beetle. A new Beetle. It comes with a 1.8T. They have a Turbo S1. I've been wanting to do like a Mark IV type situation. Should I just do a Beetle? That's fun. The other thing that Volkswagen absolutely has to start doing again is supporting the people who supported them. Build cool cars and bring them to Volkswagen fan events. Make the stupid parts so we can keep our cars on the road. Do the things that make Volkswagen owners want to wear Volkswagen merchandise and talk about the brand to anybody who will listen. Do that, and they'll also buy your mid-size crossovers because they have kids and they want to own a VW. And if you don't do these things, I hope you admit that you're wrong again from your big German grave. Thank you guys for watching.
I'm so frustrated at the end of this video. I don't know what to do.
Let me know if you're frustrated too. What can Volkswagen do to bring it back around? They can start by making old parts because we're going to need them. We have another installment of the Norman build coming up to make sure you don't miss that. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. Mo Power Baby hats. We do everything hats. New shirts. Bunch of new merch on the website. Go to speed.co and get yourself some. Follow me on Instagram at James Pumphrey. Follow Speed at speed.co. Follow Jesse at Jesse Wood, WOULD, which is one of my favorite IG handles ever. We're like a little over a year into this thing, and it's really starting to make sense to me. All right, guys. I love you. Thanks for rocking with us.
Kleine GTI, du siehst prima aus. Rein zum Start, wir braust, wir saust, GTI.